I want to take just a moment and talk a little bit about what KROB is for those who might not know. This is the 47th year of the KROB competition. It is the most senior architectural drawing competition currently in operation anywhere in the world. It is named after Kenneth Roberts, who was a young architect, a very skilled draftsman and artist that was working at a firm here in Dallas in the 1960s, and passed on a legacy of drawing and the value of drawing. And over the last 47 years, the Kenneth Roberts competition has seen an incredible amount of work, not only in terms of drawing, but in terms of the evolution of design communication within the discipline of architecture and many related disciplines. And so each year, this is, I think, my 5th year of being able to moderate, and it's always terrific to see the evolution of the work and the way that it reflects not only the profession, but how the profession interfaces with the world and with society, and the role that idea communication actually has in the advancement of the world and in our stake and in our responsibility as design professionals. This year we had a set of terrific jurors. We had Chris Cornelius from Studio Indigenous. We had Explordinary, which is Sarah Reyes and Daniel Drensky, and we had Moon Hoon of Moon Balso from Seoul. And so our jury is an international jury. We have Dallas, the US, and international scales represented. And each of these jurors, again, watch the video on the YouTube channel, and you'll see the terrific insight and comments specifically about these projects. We might have a little bit of comments between each, but the way that the format will go is we're going to allow each of the winners that are here with us today to present and talk about their work, and with maybe a little bit of comment in between, but we're going to save the end for the Q&A and for the larger discussion. And so if we skip your question during, don't worry, we'll try to get back to it at the end, time permitting, of course. Thank you again, everyone, for being here and being a part of this wonderful event and looking at this terrific work. And with that, I'd like to kick it off with the first drawing of the first project that we're going to see, and this is by Hamish McAndrew. Hamish, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Yep. So, conscious of time, I'll jump right into things. As I've just said, my name is Hamish Angus McAndrew, and I'm currently an architectural designer working in Scotland for a medium-sized office called Cameron Strachan Yule Architects. But my winning animation is in fact unrelated to my current work and is actually a callback to a university project when I was fortunate enough to travel to Hiroshima in Japan. There I worked with local students during a 3-day design competition that, for myself, resulted in a temporary bridge proposal intended to span the waters surrounding the Hiroshima Peace Park during a remembrance ceremony that takes place on August 6th each year. This date marks the anniversary of the 1945 Hiroshima bombing. And when I found out that this year's KROB Awards would take place on the evening of August 5th, Texas time, which due to the time difference would actually be the morning of August 6th in Japan, I felt that resurrecting this project seemed like a fitting tribute, which sparked me to get to work creating my animated entry. I would add here that revisiting past projects during my free time with a fresh eye and thinking up different ways of representing them is something I frequently do as a means to develop new skills that can be applied to my day-to-day work and to push myself past my previous level of ability. So this, combined with the opportunity to pay respects through a sensitively considered piece of work, is ultimately what motivated my entry. On the evening of August 6th, during the memorial event, lanterns are floated down the river to pay respects to those who lost their lives. My animation focuses on the shadows that would be projected by these lanterns as we pass under glazed sitting areas within the temporary bridge proposal, and emphasises them beyond reality to evoke the intended sobering reference to the real-world nuclear shadows left behind by the explosion. These nuclear shadows, examples of which should be visible on your screens now, capture the final moments of civilians, essentially etched into surfaces through the extreme heat of the blast. Now, with such a heavy subject matter, it's obviously immensely important to approach things sensitively, which is why I made the decision to leave the audio mute, so the animation itself could act as a moment of silence for what transpired there over 76 years ago. With this emphasis on the purely visual, I felt that a slow and steady pace was also appropriate in setting both the tone and atmosphere of my piece. Scene by scene, I wanted to build up one further layer of understanding, be it a further layer of pragmatic understanding, so what the proposed design actually is, or a further layer of emotional understanding regarding what the animation is trying to communicate beyond the design. For me, this is where the main strength in using animation is. A still image can use a myriad of techniques to, in effect, control your eyes to focus in on one area of a drawing before another. However, you're still seeing the entirety of the image as a single snapshot. I feel that animation allows the author to really take the reins of the narrative, control the pace at which information is released, and gradually lead a viewer through this imagineered world you've created. In terms of crafting my work, my animation was completed using a mix of both 2D and 3D animation techniques. A basic 3D model was created to set up different scenes and to generate the shadow paths from the moving lanterns. After exporting the animated scenes, these were then broken down into individual frames and taken into Photoshop, where I actually drew over the top of each still image using charcoal and pencil textures, with specific attention being given to highlight the shadows, which, I should add, consisted of around 700 individual drawings at 15 frames per second. But the hope was that this effort would of course pay off, with the final result being something that appears as neither fully hand-drawn or computer-generated, but which hopefully adds to the evocative atmosphere I was aiming for, and beyond communicating the proposed design itself, serves as a sensitively composed tribute to those who lost their lives in a terrible past event. I'll end it here so we can hear from the next speaker, but thank you for this opportunity to talk today, and I'll welcome any questions within the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamish. What beautiful work. And I recall discussing your project with the jurors, and Sarah and Daniel were particularly taken by this work and wondered if you had a background in film, because as filmmakers themselves, they noticed a lot of the sequence and pacing and the strength of the still image that you mentioned just now in describing this. And it was almost, you were speaking directly to the questions that they were asking and the ideas that they were discussing when we talked about this. And one thing that stood out is they said immediately, we couldn't tell exactly what you made it in. We couldn't tell exactly the software you built it in, the mode of drawing that you used, or the frames, the program, pardon me, with which you animated it. And you just described this process of developing these 700 drawings and stringing them together and being really articulate and intentional in that transition. And I just want you to know that it communicated very well, that was something that they found very compelling in that sequence, the craft of each frame.
Thank you very much. Very complimentary. Thank you.
Thank you for the work.